Welcome all, and thank you so much for participating in this second ever table talk. This one about agility, 25 years after we got presented with the manifesto. So super cool stuff for us to all to discuss. I think just to go around the room and do a quick introduction, and then we can start with a bit of a discussion. Yeah, Matthias, sorry. I always go for the Dutch version. You're
Thank
the
you.
first one in my screen, so you can start and then you pass the ball to someone.
The first one. What should I say about me? I wear ice cream sunglasses, and this has scientific evidence behind it. So it's not just being funny. I don't like to be funny. I just learned that it works scientifically when you kind of do agile transformations and you coach people. So that's why I do it. Normally, I wouldn't do that.
And they are real. So I thought it was like just some overlay, but no, they are real glasses.
No, this is kind of not an effect. This is kind of I can do these when you open a bank account. You have to kind of make sure it's real, right? The hands. They are. Yeah, let me pass the ball to let me think about it. Yeah, Jonathan.
Oh, nice. I was sitting there going, will it be me? Will it be me? We'll see. Yeah, I'm Jonathan Lucky. Been in this agile space for probably about well over 10 years. I've been in software development and product management since the beginning of my career, so I guess almost 20 years. And I'm happy to be here with some familiar faces, Rui and Adelina. Adelina, I've missed you. It's been so long, so I'm very happy to be here. And thank you all very much for having me. So yeah. And I don't have any fancy glasses. I'll give it over to Eric.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if it's just me, but
Discussion about
your sound is very.
The usual, yeah.
Yeah,
This
it
is
cuts out. It's
I've
like you're
found
losing
this
it.
before because afterward.
Yeah, cut out again for me.
In the room.
Me as well.
Yeah, you're cutting out.
I guess we can pass the ball.
To who? To who do we pass the ball? We shall never know.
One with the and the hat.
The one with the hat.
I love that.
Yeah, so my name is Julio. I've been in the Agile space for a while now, mostly the one who is at the end of the Agile space, meaning that people are implementing it and I'm getting the repercussions as the end user, in the organization. But since 4 years ago, after doing my Agile coach training with Matthias, I've gone really into the practice of helping organizations, where I use the same methodology that Matthias mentioned, which is use things that are funny or things that get people, laughing, so that at least they can get into a space where people feel safe enough to share things. And I'll give the words to the last person. I think it's called Adelina. Do I say that name correctly?
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. Yeah, I just realized I didn't bring anything funny, just my regular self. So I try by personality and everything else to make it up. But yeah, have been in the space for maybe 12 years. I was trying to think today, when was the first time I've encountered anything agile, and I think it was 2014. So yeah, it's been quite some time. And yeah, really happy to see some familiar faces. And thank you for the invite, Rui.
Hey, anytime. It's nice to have this whole panel to myself. And Eric, are we good?
Difficult to say for now. So you tell me if it's good now.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yeah.
Great. Very reassuring. Okay, yeah. So thanks indeed for having me. And I everything that I tried to say interesting was exactly during the time that you couldn't hear me anymore during those few minutes. So sorry if my stock of funny jokes and interesting things to say is over now, but I will try to fill the battery during the session itself so I can start again after the session. So thanks for having us.
Yeah. It's only for premium members. The premium members could
Yes,
hear it.
it's behind the paywall.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. So, shall we start with a little bit of a impromptu retrospective? No, we are not doing a proper retrospective at all. But I think it was a good idea to look back into these 25 years of the manifesto, and but more importantly, in how you have experienced the evolution of Agile in your own careers. So my first question for discussion, and then feel free to jump with any other questions to the members, is how have you seen agility evolved since you started working in this field till now?
Oh, yay. I mean,
Well,
we can
I
probably
think
all tell stories, right?
yeah, I think we can start with the most obvious one, right? Let's just take the label of project manager. Let's just paint over Scrum Master and do the same stuff like we did before, right? I think that is the way most of us have experienced Agile.
Yep.
No. You have to call the requirements documents user stories. And then you have to chunk your 5-year plan up into 2-week chunks, and then you're agile. That's it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Is it not how we do it in real life?
I think you will find out after this call that's not the way.
Damn it.
I think another one would be we're going to do a sprint for product where they'll decide the requirements, and then we'll do a sprint for the designers to design the product, and then we will do a sprint in which the developers will build it, and then we will do a sprint in which the testers will test it, and then we'll do another sprint to release it.
Nice one. I love that one. That's so.
And you can almost draw all of them in a Gantt chart.
Yes. Yes.
And
And
plot
you
it
know-
in Excel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me. I once found that in a company that we had a testing team that works in 3-week sprints, and it always picked up the work from a development team and then tested out. But they were working in sprints. Every 3 weeks they had a sprint, and every 3 weeks they got the development from the previous team that also worked in a 3-week increment. So it was very agile.
Yeah, nice. And then we probably had sprint goals that were, finish these 10 items this sprint.
Oh no,
That's
they were
the goal,
simpler.
right?
They didn't have goals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That even better.
The goal
Problem
was
solved.
don't die.
They were agile. They just do it.
Oh, and don't
Agile
forget,
means we don't plan, right? It's just chaos.
and don't
No
forget the
deadlines.
maturity
There is
assessments.
no.
No. Deadline.
Yep.
That's why you have the 3 weeks increment. That was perfect.
Is it not better to have no sprint goals than wrong sprint goals? Or
That is a
fake ones?
good question.
Good philosophical question. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, so what is the real
Scrum
answer?
Master.
Is it better to have no goal than to have a fake goal?
Ooh, that's probably true.
Yeah, I think you're right, Eric. It's probably better to have no goal at all.
Yeah, if you're going to fake it.
Yeah.
You know, we could
Yeah.
just go back in the 1970s and then, all be hippies again and call it love. And the goal is to be loved by each other. I still think it's a better goal than a fake goal.
Yeah. By the way, I
Sure.
find it interesting when you mention hippies that kind of there were these philosophies kind of merged, right? This thing coming from the hippie culture, then the agile movement coming in, and they had different intentions, but ended up kind of having a huge overlap, kind of. And there were companies founded on hippie ideals that ended up being very agile companies. It's interesting.
I think one of them is the one that I'm seeing you all in my laptop.
Really? Discord.
No.
Yeah.
Mac, Apple.
Oh yeah, duh. Yes, of course.
There's no more hippie than that one.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting if we think about how it evolved. If I think about my first agile team, that was in I remember that it was 2003. So it was, nobody knew what this agile thing was. I can't even remember if we called it that. We were just doing kind of extreme programming and stuff like that, and we were noticing how much better that worked, how insanely fun that was, and how productive. And I remember after that we tried to sell, kind of tell bigger companies that we would work for them like that,
Mm.
and they kicked us out. They said, yeah, that doesn't work for it. That works for two geeks in a garage, but not for a serious company and serious business.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's how
it looks interesting. Good luck with that, but not with us.
Yeah. It was interesting. In the beginning, I had the feeling I had to persuade, not persuade people. We were just doing it. We were just not telling them how we did it. We just delivered. And later, I noticed that I needed to persuade the managers to give the teams the benefit of being agile. And then a decade later, it switched. Now I had to persuade the people doing the work, and the managers wanted me to have agile in there. That's kind of still weird for me.
But
How that
it's
turned out.
it's an interesting point because what changed between those years?
Yeah, what changed?
I think it might have been the definition of agile, because if you look at the original definition, maybe people were more inclined to say, "Oh, this is really good." While now, I think the more perceptive definition of agile is, "Oh, this is the way we manage projects now." I mean, I can easily see in story points how long this project is gonna take. And then people are gonna be like, "Yeah, but that's not agile." But then managers are like, "Yeah, but that's what we want." And then people's like, "No, we wanted something else, and we don't want agile anymore." I think that's what changed over the years.
Yeah. Probably that combined with the industrialization of agile, as in like
Ooh.
being taught and implemented. There was this drive to, you know, create as many agile coaches and scrum masters and pass as many certifications out there as possible. And that led, and then the consultancies, of course, jump on the bandwagon where they have some sort of bulk stock model that they can just bolt into an organization and everyone just has to follow it. So the exec buys that model, they install it, and then they leave. And then, what happens is people do the practices, but they don't understand any of the principles.
Right.
Some people just noted that there was some money to make out of it. Then they
Mhm.
turned something really, well, and I wouldn't say the ground, but like more niche and more made by passionate people, and they turned it into something that they could sell to big corporations and make indeed good money out of it.
But that is
Also,
Isn't
I
that
think
what?
sorry, you go first, Adelina.
yeah, if you had like, for example, a bad experience with a bad implementation in a place and you
Oh,
move
we think
somewhere
we
else, you're also
hear you, Helena?
you don't hear us?
I can
Me?
hear her.
I can hear her.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Good.
can't hear.
Cool. No, so I meant like a lot of places maybe they had not the best implementations or yeah, all sorts of situations. And then as a developer, you came from one of those places to the next one. You're less willing, for example, to be okay with it or to embrace it, or it's like, yeah, I know how this is going to go. So I've also noticed this quite a lot. People being a bit disappointed.
Kind of your implicit definition changed. If you've experienced it in a bad way, misunderstood, that's what you come to know as agile. And if that's how you define agile, then I would agree that it doesn't work and you should stop doing it. But it's not what we would define as agile. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's what we see more and more. If we, I didn't start as early as you, Matthias, but when I started around 2019, people were a bit curious about Agile. You needed to explain and put the practices in place. And a few years later, everybody that you tend to work with at the moment has some previous Agile experience, but not always the good examples. And now when you try to put something in place, always needs to go through this unlearning phase first. Like, okay, this is what you think we are doing in Scrum. This is what you think a sprint planning should be like, a sprint review should be like. And then you need to decrypt a little bit and demystify what they think it was before showing how it's supposed to happen. So it's difficult to make people unlearn something that when they are convinced that they know what it is.
It's even more work now. You have to first unlearn the wrongdoing before you can start kind of on a blank slate then again.
Yes. Double the work. We should have doubled our pay in 10 years.
Exactly.
But there, I think
What have we done?
there is an important nuance though, because I think we talk about unlearning, but from an agile coach perspective, I think it's more about managing. And I like to compare it a lot to, for example, dating. If you're dating someone, then you're also dating the person who they were before and all of the things that they encountered in their previous lives. Are you going to tell your dating partner from the beginning, no, you're doing it wrong? Like, this is not how dating is supposed to be. Like, it takes a while to go through some things and then talk about, for example, traumas or things that happened in the past. And then you need to be able to manage that without saying, hey, you need to unlearn this, but kind of manage them into such a way where they say like, hey, this now is acceptable behavior and this might not be acceptable behavior. But that's a consensus, I would say, between partners, or in this case, the organization and yourself.
The difficult part to meet someone who's might have a misunderstanding of agility, might be opposed to it, and might tell you that what you're doing is stupid stuff, it's not worth it, and still have empathy for that person, assume that what they try to do is to bring the company forward, bring the team forward, and do something good. And just they don't know a different strategy. Or, as you said, they might have learned things in the past, trauma. They have habits that just don't apply to the current context anymore. And you have to work with them. And empathy is often, in my experience, the first step. Like, show them you're on their side, you're not against them, and then work with them to help them be more effective, uncover better ways of working.
Discovering better ways of it reminds me something that
I think you're talking, Jonathan, but your mic is not coming through.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that sentence about uncovering ways of working sounds familiar. I think I read it somewhere. Something that
Someone
was
said that sometime, yeah.
written like 25 years ago, something like that.
People, yeah, some guys somewhere in some resort in the mountains somewhere, maybe. I don't know.
it was probably the Declaration of Independence. It was like 25 years ago, right? More or less.
Yeah. And the what I was thinking of when you said kind of how it was kind of hijacked by all the industrialization, I think that's what you called it, Eric, right? Of Agile isn't that how it happens to any good thing that becomes mainstream? Like, first it's cool, first it's kind of understood and it's organic, and it's also not too complex, it's simple to understand, and the people just do it, use it, and then it becomes mainstream. Everyone wants a piece of the action, like a good music genre. And then everyone wants it, and then they destroy it in the process. And first we are happy that we're going mainstream, but then we're disappointed.
Then you're 3 albums in and you don't even remember what it was about.
Yeah.
Or you end up with Terminator 5.
But would you say right now that the state where Agile is in right now, are you rather happy with it or disappointed?
I think that it's it's in a weird part where I think a good word to put where agile is that we're in a pyrrhic victory, you know, where everyone is practicing Scrum or practicing Kanban, and companies have embraced the word agile, but where it's pyrrhic is, yeah, a lot of the values and principles, many companies have still kind of fallen short of really embracing those and figuring out how some of the more nuanced concepts in agile, like those things, which are the most important things in my view, we haven't really figured out. A lot of companies haven't really figured out how to embrace those. So it's like we've made progress in terms of there was nothing before agile, and so organizations now have plenty have kind of engineering groups, and everyone that has like kind of a structured way of working, and it never quite penetrated into the business space as well as we would have liked it to, and it never quite and even in the tech space we've embraced a lot of the practices, but we kind of fell short of the principles. In my view, I think it's a bit of a pyrrhic victory,
So
It's a good
could
description.
could it be summarized as we have increased the player count, but now we need to increase the rank of all players?
I like that. That's very good. That's a good analogy. I like that.
Okay, what about the rest?
Nice. Yeah.
How about you, Rui? You're
Yeah.
the one hosting this. How are you feeling about Agile?
To be honest, I like the state that it is in. I in some my other day job, not moonlighting as a podcaster or event hoster. I work in a big company, and they do follow those practices. And I've seen, I would say, 10 years ago, probably the first 10, 13 years ago was when I first got introduced into Agile, which was a super fun story. Like my team lead at the time, he left and then made me team lead of the team. And he just said, "Hey, you should look into this thing called Scrum. I think it's a great way to manage projects." I was like, "Okay, I don't know. Like, let's try it." And yeah, from there to now, it has been a big change. Like, I don't need to be explaining. I do understand what Matthias was saying, that now it's more convincing the developers, and I had those discussions before as well, where people didn't really understand the value of working in an agile way. Um, but if you have good developers that have been in the field and working agile for a while, they wouldn't want to work any other way. Like, if you tell them, like, now we
Yeah.
are going to plan a 3-year project, and before you even write the first piece of code, I needed to create a functional design document and then a technical design document, and then we are going to spend 3 months in meetings to get everything signed, they would say, "Yep, where do I sign my resignation letter? And you can start searching for someone else." But 13 years ago, that wasn't the case. So I'm hopeful. I think it's as the same way as agile, we need to keep on improving it little by little, but we are in a better state that we were before.
That's a good
That's
description. Yeah, and it's hopeful. I also see that it's kind of we can see the upside. I think agile kind of the term is a little bit burned by kind of all the bad implementations people have seen, but the concept won. Kind of it's done. It won. There's no question about it. And the companies who are doing it, they are just quietly doing it. They are not even bothering to teach others how to do it and that it's called agile or whatever. They don't care. They just do and deliver, and they enjoy their competitive advantage, and everyone else is dragging behind. And I kind of get it. So I'm fine with the term not kind of being seen in a positive light by many people anymore. That's fine. The concept won, and that's all that counts for me.
Mhm. You'll find that because at the time when Agile came about back in '01, like there was the practices and our mentality around writing software and stuff at the time, and then there was also the capabilities of us creating software back in that time. And it was a lot more difficult back then, right? To do everything from compiling things to releasing things. All of the tooling and the infrastructure that we have now to and the frameworks to build software and deliver software just didn't exist back then. So is Agile still even relevant given that we're way better at making software today than we were, 25 years ago?
I would even claim this is a result of Agile. If I think back to 2003, when we were just a bunch of nerds doing this stuff. And when I talked to many of my colleagues back then about developing software in 2 weeks or even 4 weeks, they would say I'm crazy. They claimed you cannot develop something that can work unless you have at least 6 to 9 months. You need to set up the server, you need to set up the stuff, you need to build the layers. And they were serious about that. And then since then we had 25 years to develop the methods to make it work. We developed the methods so that we could develop something in 1 month, in 2 weeks, in a week, in a day, and today we can churn out stuff in minutes. And I think that's also when we look into the future, that's the hopeful part. Other industries just have to catch up. They might not be there yet. They might still be where the software developers were 25 years ago, claiming, oh, it's not possible. You need longer time spans. They just have to develop the methods, and we can help them do that.
Yeah. And I think for your question, because the question was, is Agile still relevant, even though that we got so good in software? I think it gets back to the core of Agile, because the way that we got so good in software is a secondary value that was created. Because the first value that was created is we started to trust people more, that said, hey, I don't want to manually deploy a server and manually manage firewall rules and manually do testing and all that kind of stuff. And were people that said, can you give me time so I can find out how to automate this? And that's how we got this awesome software as a secondary value, because people got trusted. Which means that in the next couple of years, even though that Agile at this moment in time, I feel is kind of dying down job-wise, because I'm in the struggle myself for now, it will increase in the next 5 to 10 years when you look at AI, because it's not always about the software, it's more about the people. And the moment we get more and more into this machine and automation, people are going to become even more important.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
We're looking back in first experiences.
Does it make sense to even consider in this, because we almost spent half an hour without mentioning AI, and I think it's a huge success. But now you dropped it, so I think we need to enter the topic. But is it wrong to consider possibly Agile as a bridge to future ways of developing software? Like, can we consider that the companies who are a bit stuck behind, who didn't really embrace modern ways of developing software, can we consider them outdated or non-ready to the future, like to start to involve more AI features and stuff in their workflows, etc.? Are they actually ready if they are still stuck in ways of developing of 20 years ago?
Is that a question to
Good
me
point.
or to the group?
The group, or maybe just a rhetorical question? So we can just stay silent for 15 minutes.
I think
Well,
you can skip Agile and jump to AI right away. You don't need Agile anymore. At least that's the feeling how everyone out there thinks. And what turns out to be is the Agile companies have no problem adopting this new technology and kind of having the humans in the loop. And if you skip that step ever in the past, then yeah, we see that AI also remains on the surface. It's not really doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm curious that Alina, I think you had a comment earlier, so I
Yeah,
figured I'm
thank you.
curious what you had to say.
Yeah, but it was for like previous topic, so I think it's a bit over it right now. But yeah.
I mean, you can still say it, right? Because like
No, it was
we're
about the first experiences, and I was trying to remember because I said I did some retro with myself today. I did start in the agile world as a developer, or a junior software engineer, and one of the things that I think, because I was in a place where they were just moving, so there was a lot of focus initially on, okay, what's a daily, how we do daily, how we keep it to 15 minutes. So I think that's also something that a lot of times when you just move, it happens that, okay, you're stuck in this, let's say, technicalities and processes and so on. But if I look back in 2 3 years, it was taking us, I don't know, several hours to do a release. And then thanks to the planning and also to some retros and to some learning from, let's call them fast failing, we ended up reducing the time. So I think one of the things that agile really helped us was surfacing some of the problems, and that's one of the things that I hope it's still going to do, right? We want to improve, we want to make things better, and to also go faster if possible. So that's like my hope, that even if we don't call it Scrum, Agile, whatever of the terms, right, that people still keep the good practices and actually the common sense things that are behind the whole philosophy.
Mhm. You have such a great point there.
The word
Yeah.
agile, yeah, with the agile with a big A or small a, we can always discuss it with some of my teams now. I even try to, just don't use certain terms. And
Mhm.
Yeah. And now you're cutting out for me.
Yeah, it,
Yeah,
it
me
broke
too.
a bit.
I to get to your point, I like how you talked about the fast failing and the being faster and iteration loop. And this is precisely now AI is accelerating that,
Hmm.
like
Mhm.
increasing the speed. And if you never learn to do it at the slow speed of 2 weeks or a week, you will not survive at the speed of AI, of agent
Mhm.
swarms doing this together with humans in the loop. You need to, I mean, it's kind of the precondition to be able to absorb and adopt and really make use of such new technologies. That's kind of the idea of being agile, that you can absorb new technologies, new market trends, new
Mhm.
things that come in. Yeah.
and I think that is also an important message, not just to organizations, but also people that might be viewing this live. Because if your organization is not allowing you to ship something within 2 weeks or 1 week, imagine all of these other companies are going to do it within minutes or even hours. Then how relevant are you still for the market if at some point the company goes down under, or they decide to say, hey, we don't need you anymore because AI has replaced you? Where are you going to find something versus all of those other people that might have had this experience already with a company that is more agile? So I think like it's going to become a very important question.
Mhm. It's interesting too with AI, because for example, the other day I had an idea, and so I said, "Okay, here's my idea," to ChatGPT, and I said, "Go ahead and create all of my requirements off the basis of my idea, and then go ahead and create a prompt for me that and all of the with all of the necessary requirements that I can then give to Replit, and then Replit can make me my application." And so I did that, and Replit popped out the application. Cool. Did that. Took about 20 minutes. And it made me think, because I noticed there were a lot of things wrong, and yeah, I could see the app, but I couldn't help but go, did I miss some of the AIs are giving us the ability to kind of skip an important thought process that Agile often gives us and design thinking gives us when we're kind of figuring out and trying to solve problems. So it's giving us the ability to skip that, but it made me wonder if maybe I lost something in that process, because I said, "Here's my idea, go make my idea," and it's giving me my prototype back. And what's going to end up happening is I'm going to proceed forth with that prototype. Did I miss something? In terms of my thinking and my thought process, where before we would have explored it through some wireframes, the prototypes, and moving stuff and thinking things through, and then creating a few things and then trying to, are we skipping, is the skipping part which is helping us go faster, are we losing anything as a result? I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
That's a great question.
I don't think it's about losing something. I think it's about having to explicitly state something to the agent. Because if you were prototyping, in your mind, you had like, okay, these are the tests that needs to validate for me to consider this a prototype. So you need to be very aware of, hey, this thing that has to be a prototype, does the AI know what my tests are? Because it might look good, but then when, for example, you click the button and there's no functionality in the button, the prototype fails again. So I think it's more about bringing the same awareness that you had as a design thinker towards that AI agent. That's what you lost, essentially, if you don't give that context to them.
Yeah, I don't think you lose something as in a sense. I mean, what you say is it has to functionally work. So most of the coding agents nowadays know about kind of testing and that. So I would always, it still takes software engineers to know about test-driven development, red-green refactor cycle, so that the AI agent can self-correct. But once they can do that, and my feeling is that I've recently, when I worked with Codex, for example, it does it on its own. I don't know if I just prompted it enough with extreme programming or if it just now does that out of the box because it can self-correct. Then I don't think we lose anything. It's just a different way of prototyping. In the past, it might have taken us, I mean, if you only have a stone slate and a chisel and you have to chisel out your wireframe, it takes a few days. But now we're faster with pen and paper. And the same is that. It's just that our prototype is not a piece of paper anymore or a Visio sketch or whatever people used. But it is a piece of software that is working. But that's not a finished product. A product that is delivering value to customers is much more than just a software prototype. It's just that we start at a different step in the process. We still have to validate. We still have to think about the, as you said, design thinking, the who and the why, and we have to. The AI coding agent will not take this from us. It will help us structure our thoughts, but it will not do this for us. And with the current technology, how it's going, I cannot see that it ever does that in the coming years. We'll take some more technology leaps to do that. But there's a lot of creative work that we can do. And it's, as it has been in the past so often with new technologies, it frees us humans to focus on what we are really great at. It's not writing codes and making sure that line is correct and we don't make syntax errors and I have that damn semicolon at the end of the line. We can, we have capabilities to do really develop great products, businesses out of it, deliver value to people. And we can focus on that more now that the boring stuff is handled by AI agent swarms.
Yeah, it's almost like y'all are saying there's like, think what's AI is from an optimistic standpoint, AI is helping us truly understand where the value is in software and creating software. Like it's not the output, which is like lines of code. That's not important. What's important is what happens in here, like our thought processes, and how, like, you know, like you said, Matthias, is like how you actually get how do we actually take our ideas and turn it into something that's a product that people use, that they spend money on, that is useful to people. That part is something that, yeah, you can't necessarily, an AI can do on its own. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder about because I was having this conversation with the product owner that I worked with, and we were talking about all of this part about now we don't need those huge discovery phases to maybe just drill down on the wireframes like we were talking about and go deep with the user. Maybe we just need a very small discovery phase, try to figure out what we need to solve, and then you can already arrive with a prototype that is so much faster to build, that you can build in like a week or something, and then you can just have the chat with your business user like, is this what you wanted? No? Okay, now let's pick up a pen and let's start taking out what you don't want, putting in what you want, and then kind of creating this prototype way more simpler. Because I think that's where it really shines, is this accelerator that allows you to, as Matthias was saying, like I have the background also as an engineer. Creating the code was never the fun part of my job. The fun part of my job is solving the problems, not the creating the code. Like I get the kicks out of solving the problem. The code was just a means to an end. So now that part is solved, I just need to focus on the problem, which is way more interesting. So what I was curious to check with you guys is, how do you see now the other important part, which is the counterpart, the product owner's role? Because now everything is so easy to build, and their job is to be able to say no, to say, no, we are not going to build this because this is not at all aligned with our product. Oh, but you can do it in 1 or 2 days with vibe coding. Yeah. So how do you see the role of the product owner also maybe evolving more into the no person?
I think the challenges are different from a few years ago, from the fact that indeed the constraints are not anymore the development capacity. It's indeed the product thinking and the product management itself. Like, does it make sense to have a horse with a hat and three shoes and a purple tail and the three extra tails on the side? Like, at some point you can just do everything that will come because you can, but it doesn't mean that you should, because in the end your product doesn't make any sense anymore. So it really require just a different reasoning to indeed making sure that it's not because you have the capacity or the technical possibility to do something that it's a good idea, because sometimes adding a feature, adding something to your product is more than it does good. And we've seen indeed more and more that companies are turning into feature factories and not really focusing on bringing value to the user. And it can accelerate this as well, because you can ship even more features. There is nothing that stops you or slows you down anymore. So voilà, you can just ship shit faster if you want, but
Yeah.
sure,
Ship,
it's really where we want to go.
ship shit faster. Yeah, it's the trap they have been in all the time, like trying to compensate with output instead of outcome. And now AI kind of exacerbates the problem, but they think it's an advantage, but it just probably breaks them sooner. And yeah, it's just more features is not better product, and it's still not well understood.
Yeah. Yeah, as a like, when I was a product manager, I found that what made a product manager, and I'm not going to get into the debate of product manager versus product owner, but I'm going to throw the dynamite out
Oh,
there
why
and say
not? Let's do that. Let's have a fight.
they need to be the same person. Product owner is a product manager. But anyway, um, the what I found at when I was doing it is the most important value of a product manager was to go, everybody wants a piece of your product. You've got, this department over here wants to put this stuff in here. This department over here wants to put this stuff in here. The execs want this executive wants this thing in here, and this executive wants this thing in here. And oh, by the way, the customers have things they want too. Um, what makes a product manager valuable to an organization is to go, okay, I see all of these needs and desires that everybody wants in this thing. How do I synthesize that into, like, how do I work with the engineers or whoever's building the product to synthesize this into something valuable? Like, there's many demands, but there's only one problem, and it's up to a product manager to kind of lead that conversation. And I don't think that should or would go away, AI or not. I think that part of the conversation is valuable. I think if anything, this might be an opportunity as an optimist to say, finally truly bring product managers to be co-equal entities that work with the team every day, but then also still simultaneously have that other foot in the business, to truly have that. And it's so hard to achieve in big organizations at scale, but maybe perhaps AI, can enable that somehow. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's a good point. Bring the product management even closer. I mean, again, the companies who are already agile, they already do that. They just have that. We don't even need to talk about that. But the companies who still have that separation, where the product manager basically writes something up and throws it over the fence and says, "You are the team. I am the product manager. I don't belong to the team." These will have kind of, yeah. Maybe they finally understand it with AI, because it's necessary now. How you, yeah, exactly as you described it.
Yeah.
Before we continue this conversation, can I ask something very agile for a second?
Ooh.
Adelina, are we giving you enough chance
Yeah.
to speak?
Yes.
Because
Yes,
you're
no
speaking a
worries.
lot. I mean, just want to make sure that you're feeling okay as well.
Yes, thank you so much for checking.
Okay. So then I do have an opinion now that I checked. I think to go back to your question, like what is the importance of product owners, or what should they focus on? I think that they need more technical knowledge than before, because what they didn't experience, for example, let's say in 2015 or 16 or before AI was there, was that you had team members that only knew what they knew. They didn't know about, for example, automation, or they didn't know about something that was firewalling or security or whatever. So they couldn't ask you the question. But now, because you go to AI and you say, like, hey, can I do this thing? Then AI will most likely say, yes, you can do this thing. So you as a product owner now need to know, like, okay, security wise, if I would implement this, is this bad or good for my solution? Because let's think in a feature way. If I security wise open all of my ports, then that means feature wise, everyone can connect with me. Is that the right idea? I can tell you it's not. So I think product owners or managers, or however you want to have the term there, they're going to be more of the gatekeepers of how does this tool interact correctly, and they're going to have a way bigger expectation in the future to say yes or no to a feature, because now people have access to more. I think it was the same when the internet happened for the first time. Like originally you had to go to a library to find information, and now suddenly you have this device where you can look up the price when you're in the store and say, nah, that price isn't correct. Like it's gonna, like, there's a shift that's gonna happen.
That's a good point, Julio. And then to kind of ask a follow-up to that, then, do you think there's going to be, because of this, a merging of the developer and product manager role? Like, would basically developers be just product managers in that sense?
No, not directly. So I wouldn't say developers. I would say developer, because there might be someone in that specific Scrum team that really knows the product very well. Maybe he's been in the organization for 15 years. Why not make that person the product owner? Because they know what the product should be about and what the product should be.
Mhm.
And then that product owner is trained in Agile, is trained in Scrum. That also
Mhm.
means that he doesn't take decisions like he is some mafia boss with a horse head next to him, but he knows that he needs to listen to his team members when he makes those decisions.
Yeah. So in other words, this is AI is kind of prompting us to, I think, like what you said earlier, is we've got the player count, but we need to level up everyone's stats, and maybe this is what's going to prompt people. Where before people could be like, "Oh, I'm just a product manager. All I know is business stuff. Oh, I'm just a designer. All I know is design stuff. Oh, I'm just a developer. All I know is code." Actually, everyone needs to start knowing everything. Yeah, that's interesting.
And that's a lot more fun too.
It's the same for. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, continue.
Yes,
It was just saying it's more fun if we are doing this, and if you see real agile teams work, and we've probably all we belong to the few lucky people who have worked in great performing real agile teams, then we know that kind of roles dissolve somehow. It's everyone does everything. That doesn't mean that it's chaos. Everyone brings their expertise, but it's more like it's like if I look at a football team or soccer for the American listeners, then it's not that the striker only strikes. Like the striker comes back and defends their own goal if it's needed, and it's organic. You don't have to have a contract or a meeting before doing that. They just do it organically, and it's just embedded in the team. And I think that's that has to happen more to be effective in this new world, and it's also a lot more fun. Now go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, it's more fun for the people who are curious to learn about these new skills, and I think it's a bit the same of every other industry with also facing seems negative, but more like have the opportunity to reinvent themselves due to the new technologies. Like it's the same for automotive industry. Like the mechanics who didn't learn about the electronics being added in the cars, etc., had a more hard time to keep themselves up to date with the new thing that were coming up. So maybe they still have their old garage taking care of the old cars of 50 years ago, and maybe they are very happy with it. But if you want to be able to be still relevant on the market and also have the luxury to navigate from one company to another and keep on learning, it's really important to stay curious and to know how to make your own role evolve. Like the role of the Scrum Master was not the same 20 years ago, was not the same 10 years ago, and it's not the same today. It will be way different in 10 years if it still exists. And it's the same for every other role. Like it evolves due to it's constantly shifting itself, and we just need to stay up on the boat.
Mhm.
Can I ask a question? Another question about that I'm curious about when we talk about how the role needs to change, and and maybe give that to you, Adelaida, at first, if you if you can answer. Don't want to put you on the spot, but much of my work has been to have these Tayloristic managers, these command and control managers that treat people like cogs in a machine instead of like humans, to kind of help them understand that there's a different and maybe more effective way of dealing with people. Now with AI swarms, do you think we can actually they can use their Tayloristic management skills to actually now manage 200 AI agents? Because my understanding is it's AI agents are not humans. Don't humanize them. They are software tools, and they need exactly what humans don't need. Exactly strict guidelines and borders, frequent checking, exact goals, maybe a list of tasks, a PRD document written down to know exactly what they should do. And when they do something wrong, you tell them, oh, no, that's not the right thing. And you tell them 10 times it's not the right thing, and they don't get angry at you. At least hasn't happened with ChatGPT yet. So do you think, Adelaida, we can kind of reuse the old skills of these Tayloristic managers to get them to manage AI swarms effectively and not humans?
Do you have any proposal for like a case study or something on this? No, but also with the swarms, right? You can actually write everything, and it still can turn out not what you were having in your head if you didn't put it correctly, right? And sure, you can tell it many times, hey, this is not correct. Please redo it. But at a certain point, it's not gonna get annoyed, but it's gonna be like, hey, you need to tell me better how to do it. So I think even for this, they might find some not answers that they want, but at least you can micromanage until the end of the world, right? You can change every single thing, and then there's going to be a feedback from it, right? So you can check every detail there.
Yeah, it's funny, Adelina, when you said that, it reminded me of General McChrystal's book on leadership, and he talked about how, yeah, like you can, if you can have a hierarchical organization, and the benefit of that is, just like with those agents, you can tell, you know exactly what everyone is doing all the time. You can control like little knobs everything that's happening. Downside of that is you have to be correct, to your point, Adelina, 100% of the time. The minute you are incorrect, there is no mechanism to save you from being incorrect. When you're in a more organic organization where there's humans or autonomy and stuff, obviously we probably don't want AI to be that autonomous. Then there's people in place to tell you, hey, I don't think this is a good idea, or hey, it'd be better if you did it this way. You know, you have a mechanisms in place to save you from your own failure as a leader. And that's interesting how, like, yeah, like you said, Alina, if you don't, the benefit is you get to have total control, but also you lose the ability to stop yourself from failing. So any failure is wholly your fault. Yeah, as a leader. Yeah.
I'd like to
It's a
challenge
great
something
point.
you said there, because you said at some point, you said at some point you said, because of a hierarchical structure, you know exactly what everyone's working on. Are you sure about that? Because there's
I
many
see you go.
organizations that have KPIs that say every ticket needs to be closed within half an hour. So what your organization ends up doing is closing all tickets at 29 minutes, calling those users and saying, "Hey, can you please reopen your ticket?" So are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? I don't know.
But it looks good in the report, so everything is fine.
Yeah, hierarchical wise, they're not getting shit on top of their head, you know.
It reminds
Oh,
me
yeah,
the
it's
first
wonderful what
time.
you said. Like, yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say it reminds me of the first time I saw someone with a KPI on the service desk, which was the time to first response. And time to first response stopped counting the moment you put the first comment on the ticket. Not all comments were useful. Let's put it like that. But they were there.
But back then, a human had to put those comments, right?
Yeah.
So now it would be even faster. You can increase that KPI. Boom.
Something happened to the sky.
Yeah, my magic power failed. I hope it worked
Uh-oh.
again.
Ooh.
There we go. Look at that. That's agile.
It's almost like what was that? I think it was at Microsoft. I can't remember which company it was. I think it was Microsoft years ago. They like mandated a certain like code quota for people, for their engineers. So people met the quota and they just bound up writing like thousands upon thousands of lines of just useless code.
We should have a round table just telling stories about Goodhart's law. There's so many examples. Like I've heard that from Wells Fargo, where they had how many accounts people open. Like they noticed that accounts were a leading metric for success, and then they made it a target. And of course, they had lots of useless accounts. Yeah, there's probably thousands of these, and it would be fun to just have a show just having examples of these hilarious failures.
Good arts law.
It will
You're
be never ending.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said it will be never ending because every time you put a KPI on someone, the first reflex is to cheat with the KPI. Like it's normal. We become binary people. Like our first target is how to make sure that I reach my KPI. So I'm getting good compliments and good feedback, and people are happy with me. I will get my bonus at the end of the year. It's all that matters at the end. See that people's behavior drastically change when it's put in place.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even that we have to be kind of mean people or something. It's we have a workshop exercise that we do where we actually show how individual goals and team goals, kind of, if they are misaligned, the individual goal always wins. And even if the people are great people and promise that they go for the team goal, the individual goal always wins. And this is the trouble, where in many companies still have these individual bonus things and performance rankings. I just heard this week I heard about a company where they rank people on 3 levels in the against each other on the team, and it's just stupidity. But yeah, let's hope that AI can kind of exponentially increase that stupidity so that they implode sooner. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's known stupidity. Yeah. What you just said was known stupidity, because the one that I got in contact with was they did relative ranking of employees. So that meant that you were relatively ranked versus somebody else in the company. So somebody who was working a first line help desk was also relatively ranked versus someone who was in third line who has power of automation, you know. So it's like a never winning battle, basically. And the relative ranking was set up in such a way that like 90% of the company stayed, and then 10% of the company was either put on an improvement plan, or if they were in an improvement plan the year after, they were kicked out, so that opened new spots for new people. And the idea behind it is, if you bring in new talent, you also bring in, you know, new skills and new ways of thinking, and that was the idea behind it. But what happens with the other 90% that you're not investing in, you know? So it doesn't make sense. So I think it's known stupidity, or at least a known operating model, but not knowing the consequences behind it, because they just look at the positives, possibly.
I
In,
think
in a previous job, I was working in sales, and I was like a cluster manager or something of a couple of shops in retail, and we were basically paid based on our ranking. So what you describe, having a ranking of employees together, so we were like 10 having my job in the country, in Belgium, and we were ranked from 1 to 10, and we were really having our commission paid based on the ranking. So at some point, it really became not just uh, a compliment thing, or just an ego boost, but really like my pay rate was based on how the other ones were performing. So if you really want to play the system, either you play it good and you try to do the best for yourself and for the company, or the other solution was kind of to sabotage the other regions. And if you had like a shop close to yours, which is in a different region, you start to talk shit about them just to make sure that they don't get enough customers. It was the same company, but the system just turns us against each other. It really made us work like this, because there was a lot of pressure on this. So you can easily get trapped into this system of trying to make sure that the other ones loses, so you win more.
And if you do such, go ahead,
go ahead.
Jonathan.
I was going to say, it's interesting how companies try to apply certain market concepts like competition internally, thinking that they'll have the same kind of result as how markets work with competition, that you end up with something better. But I don't think internally in an organization that works well, because it just means that everyone's going to be infighting with each other and not actually creating any better value for the organization. And everyone will be naturally incentivized to make everything look good, but actually nothing would be good. I've just never seen those kind of systems turn out well.
And it's not even that we have to actively fight each other. It's just that we missed out on the synergies of playing advantage. And yeah, what you said earlier, Jonathan, is still in my head. The where you said that humans will tell you if you are doing stupid stuff. And hopefully, if you have a kind of let's psychological safety trust in that they can actually will tell you that it's stupid what you're doing. And AI does not do that. My ChatGPT always says, "What a great idea you have! Let's do it." and it's probably it's getting worse if you don't have humans who tell you that this might be a bad idea what you're doing.
That's right. When you're in a burning building, you will die.
Yep. Well, it's interesting too with that is like, even if you're in an organization where the leader tends to be more dictatorial, right? People might not even tell the leader that they're wrong, but what they'll do is in the background is they'll try to clean it up and fix it, right? And the leader would think that the thing that they told them to do was the right thing, but actually what people are doing is going around the background and saving the leader from themselves without even bothering to tell them, because sometimes people don't want to hear that they're wrong. But like you said, if AI was doing all of those things, that guardrail does that secret guardrail just doesn't exist. Yeah, it's interesting.
And
A lot
also
of times I've had to
the
clean things up in the background. Sorry, continue. Sorry.
and that guardrail that you're talking about also is just so superficial because, for example, what you could do, and this is very technical about AI, by the way, right now. So tell me if I'm going too technical. You have your chat open, and people think that there is some intelligence behind it. But the thing is that every time you send a message, you send out the entire history that you've been talking with. So if you go into your HTML editor and you edit the responses of the AI so that the AI thinks that they responded that way, the guardrails are gone. Huh? They're completely gone. Like, for example, if you would go into a chat and you would let them say some really things that are gore, very gory. I've tried to do it for my D&D campaigns where I needed to let them, generate something that it was not supposed to. It just crashes, it just goes in a loop and it's done, or the guardrail just completely fails and it generates what you want.
It's
Off
worse
topic,
than
but
anything for the seahorse emoji.
just off topic, but how much are you using AI for your D&D campaigns? Because with my group, we stayed quite old school, but yeah, just curious. Or is it fully AI now?
So it's only image generation. That's it.
All right, all right.
Battlestar Galactica by your command voice.
Yeah, I went pretty heavy on that one. It didn't work the last time, but now I fixed it.
So I was,
Yeah,
I
it's
was going to touch a bit
yeah.
again on the KPIs that you guys were mentioning, because I was interesting to hear a bit of your points, because I think so, and this is kind of my view. If a KPI is improperly done, right, and is measuring the wrong thing, most of the time what you end up is a race to the bottom. That was what Eric was describing in the company. Like, you start sabotaging yourself because it's way easier for most times to make everyone else look bad, to make you look better, than for you to put an effort on looking better.
Mhm.
You need to put
True.
game theory a bit in there, huh? Like, uh, I'll give a really good example. I think, does everyone know the game Rocket League?
Yeah.
Does everyone know it?
Oh yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
cars, the balls you need to score. Well, there's two strategies. Either you get really, really, really good at controlling the ball, or you ram into the enemy so they explode. But both ways are positive into getting towards the goal. So if your KPI would say, well, hey, you crashed the car, it's not good, like Gran Turismo, that says, hey, you cut through a corner, you now get a 20-second penalty. I think that's where the KPI needs to be checked. Like, is it prone to people being malicious? Because people will.
Do you really think you can design a KPI that's perfect?
No. No.
Mm.
No. It takes what Jonathan said. It takes the people who kind of correct for stupid things. Even if a KPI is, yes, close the ticket within 29 or within 30 minutes, that they understand the intention and say, okay, maybe that KPI works for us, or maybe the sky is falling, or they, or that they say, okay, let's just invent a different KPI that helps us more. But it's the culture behind it, the people behind it that make it work. It's probably you cannot just design the perfect KPI, I think.
Yeah.
Not sure there is such thing as the perfect KPI. Like at some point, it's always to put your focus on what your KPIs directs you to. You will put less focus on something else. So it's would be more to me. Is it making you going in the right direction? Like Can you do a better work that you would do without a KPI? I think it's already good. If a KPI is more good than harm, it's already a victory because it's not always the case.
Great point. Yeah.
So I think to answer your question really well, Rui, is there is no point in creating a perfect KPI, but I think it really depends on the culture around the KPI. If you have a good culture from people, they will not ram into the car to try and win the game. But also, if you do not have bad leadership, they will not use the KPI to say you're now banned from playing Rocket League because you crashed into the car. And I think that's what KPIs are about. You need to look at the sub level of a KPI and see how does my organization react on that. And that's what you try to go into with Agile, because of all of the ceremonies that you do and all of the things that come true and all of the people focused activities and events that you do. You try to better that culture as much as possible so that KPIs do not get abused.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think one of the things I've noticed with the people kind of forget the I in KPI, which is indicator. And to channel to channel Charles Goodart, which I love, Matthias, you brought up Charles Goodart. Sometimes what people do is they obsess over that one number. Oh, GDP, it has to go up. The stock market, oh, the S&P 500, it has to be this number. And the thing is, what people forget is that these are indicators. The thing is, we live in a complex system, which we don't know all the variables and we don't control all of them. So, what we have to do is do a bunch of measurements to give us an indication of what's the state of the system, And so if we obsess over trying to tune and optimize for one or two numbers, we risk, just like y'all said, like breaking everything as a result. So, like you said, Julio, as we focus on the culture and all these other things, and the people, then we just have measurements that tell us whether the things we're doing are probably having a positive impact. But very rarely are we going to ever have this like, I did X, therefore it moved this number. Like very few things on earth allow for that direct causal relationship.
And I want to jump in quickly because you just mentioned something that I do think is important KPI wise. There are KPIs that are absolute if they have nothing to do with people. And two really good examples for that is, for example, website loading times. You want them to be under a second, which is a really good KPI to start tracking, because if that's over a second, then you could be like, maybe something's wrong with our solution. Or a second good example is, I don't know how well known you are in the security space, but there was an incident at some point with an SSH connection. Just to iterate, it is a way to connect towards a unique machine over the console, a very specific protocol over port 22. And the person who invented that specific protocol noticed that a KPI of initiating a connection was 50 milliseconds slower than it was supposed to be. And because of that, they knew that somebody injected bad code into the SSH protocol. So they checked it and they were like, oh, I found this bug. Please update everything because you were actually impacted by this. And I think that would, for example, be a very good KPI to start tracking. So it depends, like, are people involved with the KPI, yes or no? That's going to change the way that you should be using that KPI.
Yeah. The behavior KPI is about the behaviors of the system as opposed to the behaviors of people, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I like that.
More objective, right? I think like there is no I in KPI, but it doesn't make any sense because there is obviously one.
I like that. We need to put that on a bumper sticker.
And I don't know, but I feel like that's a great last sentence for us to end this table talk. Unless you guys still have other questions that you want to ask each other.
We talked about AI, right? Just to be sure.
No, AI is the future.
Good.
Thank you very much for the session.
after cup. Stories unfold, real people, real past, pure gold. From debug nights to breakthrough days, we laughed, we learned in so many ways. Coffee and bites, stories come alive. Humans behind the screen, we thrive. Inspiring journeys, no fluff, just fire. Thanks for sharing, take it